Going to be supporting Governor Romney.
We will press forward.
Ron Paul wants to cut a stunning $1 trillion out of a $15 trillion economy, and he wants to do it in the first year. It would change everything. 440,000 government jobs gone. He'd close 1/3 of the cabinet-level departments, commerce, education, energy, HUD, interior departments. He'd also shut down the TSA, close that completely, moving those responsibilities, he says, to the private sector. He'd end funding for foreign wars. He would cut foreign aid. He would cut defense, and he would bring spending back to 2006 levels. Look at this chart of his economic plan. This is his spending. It shows spending dropping off a cliff. Look at that compared with the president's proposals. That drop-off would no doubt be felt by everyone. He also wants to reform, not even reform, end the Federal Reserve. He says the Fed is distorting the value of the dollar. He says the Fed printing money to respond to the financial crisis is making the dollar worthless and will cause dangerous inflation. He'd kill what he calls Obamacare, and he wants to repeal financial market regulations. Now, on taxes, Ron Paul doesn't believe the government should have your money. He would extend the Bush tax cuts. He would end the capital gains tax. He says that punishes you for success. He would end taxes on tips. He says it's really important for working people and for students not to pay taxes on their tips. He says it's immoral to tax seniors for Social Security benefits, and he would lower the corporate tax rate to 15%. He goes beyond just lowering taxes. He would support a Liberty Amendment to end income taxes and to close the IRS for good. Basically, Ron Paul wants to slam the brakes on the American economy and on the government. Middle-of-the-road economists say, hey, look, this would drive the economy back into recession. It would kill up to 1.5 million private sector jobs.
An alarming form of corporatism as it further intertwines governments with companies like Google and Facebook. It permits them to hand over your private communications to government officials without a warrant. It also grants them broad immunity from lawsuits for doing so, leaving you without recourse for invasion of privacy. Simply put, CISPA encourages some of our most successful internet companies to act as government spies, sowing distrust of social media and chilling communications in one segment of the world economy where Americans still lead. Imagine having government-approved employees embedded at Facebook, complete with federal security clearances, serving as conduits for secret information about their American customers. CISPA is Big Brother writ large, cutting the resources of private industry to work to the nefarious purpose of spying on the American people. Spying on the American people. Spying on the American people. We can only hope the public responds to CISPA as it did to SOPA back in January. I also urge you to call your federal senators and representatives and urge them to oppose CISPA and similar bills that attack internet freedom.
And do any of you remember this guy, Ron Paul? You know, he's still in the race, and he's still making waves, and he's here to tell us what kind of waves. Mitt Romney, are you listening? You might want to start worrying. Ron Paul not done yet. This weekend could be the Texas congressman's Alamo, because if the presidential candidate gains enough last-minute support from Nebraska's big GOP gathering tomorrow, he will be speaking at the Republican National Convention in Tampa. And I guess this, whether the Romney camp likes it or not, on the phone with us now is Congressman Ron Paul. Congressman, I always thought these speaking things were set in stone by the nominee, and not necessarily?
No, in theory, not. The party has a lot to do with an RNC, and the rules have something to say about it, too, on who gets the rules dictate who gets to be nominated, as well as not only for president, but vice president as well. But I would say that the presidential nominee, especially if it's a clear-cut nominee, does have a lot to say about it. I don't think there will be a split between the RNC and the Romney camp on who gets to do what.
I don't care who they are. If they don't let you speak, I mean, they'd be idiots. I mean, and I don't think that'll happen. So I know there's a lot at stake tomorrow in Nebraska, and everyone's watching it. But I'd tell you that would be political suicide if you were relegated to the sidelines. That's my opinion. But.
You know, I would think you probably are right about it, because I'll try to be objective. I would think that if an individual has, you know, a base where there's individuals like the young people who would like to come into the party, who had never voted, they're new, and they want to build a party, and they preach this thing about Big Tent. It's not like I'm preaching socialism. I'm preaching and doing the things and get credibility for doing exactly what Republicans claim they believe in. So it's sort of ironic that, well, we don't like these Ron Paul people because they don't vote to raise the national debt when you need to.
No, that would be very stupid. And whatever their discrepancies and differences over foreign policy, you know, people can disagree. There's no doubting your supporters' passion and enthusiasm. You're the only guy I know, when we were covering you during the primaries and caucuses, Congressman, who get young people, you know, Raz, talking about the Fed. That's impossible. If I could have done that in my financial journalism career, I'd be like the Jacksons. So I don't know how the heck you did that, but I don't think the Romney camp wants to risk alienating that group. Have you heard from the governor? Have you gotten any sense of what role you'll be playing in Tampa?
No, I haven't. Some of our staffs have talked, and that's indirectly and off the record on this sort of thing, and I've gotten a sense that maybe the party, the RNC, is more open to allowing me to have a presence there. And it's not on a personal thing, because I used to be accused all the time of Romney and I are too close of friends and all that kind of stuff, and that was true. But I think the Romney campaign organization is very insecure. They don't want anything. They want this thing to go smoothly, but all conventions like that. And this is the one thing that annoys me a bit, is they want this thing to go smoothly and be a big media event, and it costs the taxpayers $18 million, and they don't want a discussion. You know, why can't we have a little debate?
No,
why wouldn't that energize people?
No, I agree with that. But by the way, a quick take on this talk that Condoleezza Rice has moved to the top of Governor Romney's VP short list. What do you think of her? What do you think of that?
Well, I was really surprised that is the case. I would be pretty amazed if she were to be picked. So,
what would you think if she were? You're not a fan, obviously, of the
well, no. I mean, I can understand philosophically why she might, because even though she talked about, along with Bush in the year 2000, about a humble foreign policy, and I thought, wow, maybe we're going to get a humble foreign policy and no nation building, but it didn't turn out that way. So she would fit the bill for him, but it wouldn't help the Ron Paul supporters, because they would like a different foreign policy. We'd like a foreign policy that George Bush talked about in the year 2000. No nation building.
But you're saying that your supporters wouldn't like her as a pick.
That would be my guess, but I don't dictate anything to anybody. And but that would be my guess. They're not going to be. They wouldn't be very happy with her because she represents a foreign policy quite different than what energizes the college campuses today. Okay. You know, they're not people who are looking for another war and pay for another war. They know the country's broke and they don't like what the Fed's been doing and this sort of thing. One thing for sure is the Fed we've won some fights there, because you know we're going to get this passed in the House here in the next week or so, and it should pass rather easily. So there is a strong sentiment for monetary reform, and I think it's very bipartisan. So I sort of enjoy the economic issues where you can get some Democrats and Republicans coming together.
All right. Well, good luck tomorrow, Congressman. As always, a real pleasure.
Thank you, Neil.
And yes, we have the power and lawful right to do so. In conclusion, it has become painfully obvious, even for me, a 12-year-old Canadian, that we are being defrauded and robbed by the banking system and a complicit government. What will we do to stop this crime? What will we do to ensure that the next generation will live free and clear of the debt-based economy that enslaves them to the banks? Margaret Mead said the following, and I hope that all of you remember this. Never doubt that a small group of people can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. Thank you.
Paul supporters say, hey, that's exactly the point. The government is crowding out the free market. It's distorting the economy. It's just what America needs, the jolt America needs. Christine Romans, CNN, Atlanta.
Come on, Nebraska. Please support Dr. Paul, anyone and everyone, by hitting the donate button on ronpaul2012.com.
Eliminate them.
Take them out.
10 seconds to warp core breach.
Some may not like that, but
Let's try and cheat death.
my position doesn't change.
I didn't run away. I got a sandwich.
We have reached a landmark settlement with the nation's largest bank